Hi guys, Frank King, Tercel Talk. This is a little more serious one. I call it the Mental Health Minute, although it's going to be longer than a minute. A quick disclaimer to start with. You'll see why I tell you this in a second. I have two mental illnesses. One is called major depressive disorder, better known as depression, and something called chronic suicidality, meaning for me the option of suicide is always on the menu, even for the simplest of frustrations. My car broke down. I had three thoughts. I could get it fixed, I could buy a new one, or hell, I could just kill myself. That's chronic suicidality. That's disclaimer number one. Disclaimer number two, I am not an anti-gun nut. I'm a nut, but not an anti-gun nut. We own two guns. I have a Colt 380 pocket light. My wife has a gorgeous Ruger nickel-plated 38 caliber revolver. So I'm not an anti-gun nut. I'm a nut, but not an anti-gun nut. I mention that because today is the 15th of February, 2018. Yesterday, 14th February 2018, Valentine's Day in Florida, mass shooting, 17 people killed. More than Columbine. Here's something you may not know. In the last 45 days, first 45 days of 2018, 7 mass shootings at schools in the U.S. That's one a week. Here's something else you may not know. Last year, 2017, in the U.S., 372 mass shootings. That's more than one a day. Mass shooting is 4 or more victims, one perpetrator, one incident. And who gets the blame most of the time? And here's why we're having this conversation. The mentally ill. Because I saw Rick Scott on television last night. First thing out of his mouth, I knew it was going to be thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers. Yank me. If thoughts and prayers worked, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Number two, somebody said, a reporter, should we begin thinking about some sensible gun regulations for Florida? Because Florida is an extremely easy place to buy a gun. Yeah, which is why more people die in Florida by gun than, say, Massachusetts, where it's very difficult to buy a gun. Hello? Anybody see the connection? So first thing out of his mouth, thoughts and prayers, yank me. Second thing was, not guns or gun laws. We already have gun laws on the books. There's no gun law on the books or we could have passed that would have stopped this guy. They're always talking about stopping the one guy who did whatever it was. And I'll agree, there's no set of gun laws or gun law you could pass that would stop that one guy. But see, it's a false premise. You cannot create a gun law that will stop everybody. It's a false premise. They just trot it out to give, to muddy the water. No one law is going to save everybody. It's like back in '64 when the government insisted auto manufacturers put seatbelts in cars. What if the auto manufacturers had said, okay, well look, the seatbelt is not going to save everybody. Yeah. So you come back to us with a device we can install in the car that will save everybody, and we'll install it. Seatbelts do save lives. Not everybody's. People die belted in every day. However, the rate of death by automobile in 1960 is twice what it is today per 100,000 per capita. Twice. So, seatbelts, shoulder harnesses, airbags, crumple zones save people. Save everybody? No. Gun laws, sensible gun regulation saves people. Save everybody? No. Okay. So, number three, I knew he was going to say this. What we really need to do is focus on mental illness. Why? Because everybody assumes that anybody who's a mass shooter is mentally ill. They just assume that. How could somebody at the gym today said to me, he's got to be mentally ill. Who is sane that shoots 17 people and kills them? Well, here's the deal. Guess what percentage of gun deaths in this country they can attribute to people who are mentally ill? Guess. What do you figure? 25%? 35%? 45%? 50%? 1%. 1% of gun deaths in this country can be attributed to the mentally ill. Yep, people like me. Yep. The other 99%, and this is frightening. This is why nobody wants to hear this. The other 99% of gun deaths are perpetrated by people who are neuronormal, sane people, who I guess just happen to be pissed off. Like the guy in Vegas. That was why it was so hard for the news media to digest what the guy in Vegas, the shooter in the hotel at that concert, did. Because it didn't fit anybody's narrative. He wasn't a black guy, he wasn't a Mexican, he wasn't a Muslim terrorist. He's a wealthy, middle-aged, white guy who was germ-phobic, as far as I can tell. That was the only mental illness he had. He was just, is it possible he was just a raging asshole? Pretty much. It seems to me, if 99% of the people are perpetrators of the gun deaths in this country, then it's just normal people who are pissed off for one reason or another. So quit freaking blaming gun deaths on this country on the mentally ill. You know who we should blame? And Rick Scott's not going to say this. Guns. If you look at every other industrialized nation in the world, they all have a lot of the same problems. They have income inequality. They have racial divides, political divides. They have mentally ill people and lack of mental health treatment. And they have far lower gun deaths year in and year out. And why would that be? Because they have far fewer guns. There are more guns in this country than there are people in this country. Last year alone, 1.5 million AR-15s were sold in this country alone. AR assault rifles, 1.5 million. They only sold 6 million cars in this country last year. And they sold a fourth of that number in AR-15s. I'm sorry to say, you know why Rick Scott won't say that? Or any of the Republicans, state or federal? And forgive me, don't give me that horse shit about both sides do it. Because when it comes to sensible gun regulation, both sides do not do it. The Republicans, Rick Scott, I'm sure in particular, but the Republicans are getting a shit pot full of money from the NRA. They're whores for the National Rifle Association. And if they even suggest sensible gun regulation like universal background checks, which 94% of both Republicans and Democrats polled would like to see happen, close the gun show internet buying loophole for guns, ban bump stocks, assault weapons ban. If he mentioned any of those, if he breathed the word of any of those, the NRA would cut off the spigot of cash and he would have to finance his little campaign some other way. That's why, thoughts and prayers, don't blame the guns. We've already got laws in the books. It's the mentally ill. I'm just sick and freaking tired of crazy scaping. Thank you.